So the first thing on the warm-up problems we're going to do is practice our vocabulary. Hey. So classify the following by sides and angles. 3 congruent sides. What is the vocab word for 3 congruent sides? Equilateral. And I made this matching your vocab quiz so you don't have to worry about spelling. Just, pick it out. Now let's do the angles. If it's equilateral, what's your classification vocab for the angles then? I hear it's whispering. Equiangular. Easy enough. Okay, vocab word for 2 congruent sides. Isosceles. Now, angles. How are you classifying this by the angles? Right. So, and this is the type of stuff that's, on the vocab quiz, clearly in a matching style. None of the sides are the same over here. So what's the vocab word for that? Scalene. And once again, by the angle, you're going to classify it as right. So there's a lot of this stuff, obviously, on your vocab quiz Wednesday. There might also be, I'm going to erase this just so you know Wednesday. You might also need to be able to recognize or, identify the distance formula. Not that that's that crazy of a thing. So any questions on those? I just got to scroll it down. Okay, well, let's do the 4th one. Now, here's a good review. Chapter 30. And while we're on a vocab kick, what's the name for these types of angles? Yeah, consecutive interior. Are they congruent or do they add to 180?
They add to 180.
All right, so let's add them to 180. Let's solve it, of course. I'm going to combine my like terms. 7x, 6x, got it. -5, -2. Okay, we can add the 7 over in our head, clearly. Now, when you divide by 13 in your calculator, which good I see we're doing that, you are not going to get a nice whole number for the record. Let's just round it to the 10th. Final answer. What do you have? Perfect. I just didn't hear you, Elliot. Thanks. Got it. Any questions on that? Okay, all the vocab, the gift that keeps on giving. Love this stuff. So today we're going to talk about congruent polygons. Now, the focus of this chapter is eventually we're going to prove, there's that word, triangles are congruent. We are going to do a proof today. We are. And some of the things we need to know, of course, with our triangles are some of these questions here. When are 2 angles congruent? Easy question. Ty says when they're congruent. Can we get a little more specific, maybe? Dean?
When they don't equal each other.
So we're talking about their measurements being the same, like a 35 degrees and 35 degrees. Clearly those are congruent. So I'm just going to put, I'm not going to write a paragraph here, same measurements. So they both measure the same. Now, you might need a calculator for the second one here. If A is 64, B is 71, how are we going to find C? They all need to total up to how many degrees? 180. So in your calculator, let's be honest, I wouldn't show work for this either. I'm going to do 180, I'm going to take off 64 and take off 71. So what's your third angle? Who's got it? Don't I yell it at once? 45. I see people stealing other people's calculators. Okay, let me scroll it down. I'm just going to put the third one on the screen. Oh boy, it's been a while since we've done this. But I'm just gonna warn you, we are writing a proof today. This is something we used back in our proof writing days. What property congruence is illustrated? If A is congruent to B, angle B is congruent to angle C, then angle A is congruent to angle C. Transitive. Oh, here it comes. So we're going to be using some transitive in our proof writing. Remember, this is the last chapter with proofs, so feel happy about that. There is a proof today, a proof singular. Now, a couple things you're going to have to write on the blank here, nothing too crazy. To me, this is one of those, well, duh, okay. Congruent shapes. 2 geometric figures are congruent if they have exactly the same size and shape. So clearly these are congruent. They just maybe rotated some of them around to be fancy. Clearly these do not, the triangles on the right, do not have the same size or shape. They would not be congruent. Seems pretty obvious to me. It's pretty obvious. Don't know to complicate it. But just recognize they might have the figure rotated, spun around, so it might not look exactly like one of them, but they are the same. So I'm going to give a minute to write all that in, and then we'll flip the page. One page down. Like 2 to go. Okay, everybody got it? And wait till everybody's done writing. So the red words are what you're filling in. If 2 polygons are congruent, and you can use the congruent symbol too if you want, then the corresponding sides and angles are congruent. And I'm going to show you that today. That is what we're going to really be working on today. Now corresponding, of course, we're matching up sides, angles, all the congruent pieces. So here's kind of the, on a triangle, there's 3 sides, 3 angles. If you want to show it's congruent to another triangle, I need to know all the angles, all the sides are congruent. Like that's a lot of things I have to write in my proof to show it's congruent. So get ready for that. But you are filling those in. And just explain these congruent marks because maybe we haven't seen them in a while. Remember, the double tick marks are just to kind of separate from the single. So of course, any with the 2 tick marks on them, those sides are congruent. Same with the angles. You might even see 3 tick marks or 3 of these congruent arc marks. 4 even if we have a quadrilateral. Just for the record. All right, I'm going to practice on triangles over there. Write a congruent statement for 2 polygons. Always list corresponding vertices in the same order. So it says write a congruence, write 2 possible congruent statements for the triangle. So I'm going to put a triangle symbol. Now, I always kind of, just to keep my brain organized on this stuff, I always work in the same order. I start with single congruent, then I go to double, then I go to triple. So on this triangle, I see the single congruent is A, double is B, triple C. So I'm going to call it ABC. But since I worked single, double, triple, and that one, I have to do the same thing on the right one. So my single congruent F, double E, triple D. So that to me is always the easiest way to do it. Now, they want you to do a second statement. So they want you to scramble it up. Okay, I'm a little scared. So I'm going to scramble this. Now, you got a lot of choices. BAC, BCA, CBA, I don't know, we're going to pick something here. I'm going to get crazy. I'm going to say BCA. Now, here's what we mean when we say corresponding, because you're going to hear me say that a lot. So angle B corresponds to E on the other triangle, so I have to start with E. Let me put the triangle down there. Then I have C, corresponds to D on the right triangle. And then A corresponds to F. And you could have had a different scrambled order than what I did, but just wherever your A is, F needs to be. Whatever spot B is, E needs to be. That's what we mean by corresponding. Okay, now let's do the angles. Again, I'm lame. I always work single, double, triple. So my single congruent A congruent to F. Then I do the doubles. B, E. And then of course my triples, C and D. I'm going to sneak it in on the bottom here. So, not hard, but I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little time consuming today because we've got to write all this stuff out. Now, corresponding sides. I do the same thing, single, double, triple. My single congruent side is AB. My single is FE. Those are, throw back to chapter 1, segments. I'm going to use a segment symbol. And then, of course, the other one, FE. I'm going to do the doubles now. So the doubles are the bottom sides, AC and FD. And now I do the triple sides, the triple congruents, BC, ED. So difficult? No, but time consuming to write out all these pieces? Definitely, okay? And again, you just have to keep all those corresponding pieces together. All right, any questions on that one? This is the majority of what we're doing today. So identify all pairs of corresponding angles and sides. Now, a little fancier here. They spun, they rotated one of the triangles, so it's not quite as obvious, but I'm still gonna work in the same order. Angles first, I'm gonna do single, K, S. I'm gonna do the doubles, then the triples. Let's get the singles written down. So angle K and angle S. Now I'm gonna do my doubles, L and R. And then I'm going to do the triples, J and T. And I'm going to do the exact same order for the sides. I just, out of habit, quick and easy, single, double, triple. So single congruent, JK, single over here, ST. So JK segment. Then I'm going to do the doubles, KL, RS. And then I'm going to do the triples, JL, RT. So again, not a ton of work, but just tedious to write out all these parts for sure. Now, congruent statement. That is where we're going to say triangle, however we're going to name it, is congruent to the other triangle. Now again, just easy habit, I single, double, triple. So single, I'm going to call it K, L, J. And then it's very simple for me to get the order on the other one because I did single, double, triple. So single, S, R, T. Got it. Now again, you could have a different order than what I did, but wherever your L is needs to be the same spot as R. J has to be in the same spot as T, so on and so forth. Boys, that's what makes these so fun to grade, is that you can scramble that, but I have to double check everything corresponds. Any questions on that page? See, we're cruising. Okay, and now we have a quadrilateral. So, how many angles are in a quadrilateral? 4. And how many sides? 4. So we just made more work for ourselves. Fun, because we have to do all the angles inside. But wait a minute. There's nothing marked on the pictures. Okay, so we're going to have to work off our congruent statement. So I'm going to match, that thing is key, I'm going to match everything up based off of that. I'm going to start with the angles clearly. Now the first letter is D, so that corresponds to S. So angle D congruent to angle S. Now I'm going to mark on the picture as I go. I'm going to put a single congruent on D and a single on S. Because they have these rotated around, so I want to make sure everything matches. Okay, then I'm going to do angle E with P. I'm going to put a double congruent on that to separate it. Oh gosh, okay. Then I'm going to do the third letter, F with Q. So angle F. Right here, I'm going to put 3 on that. I'm going to try not to cover up that 68 too much. I think I'm going to need it. Same with this. And then, of course, our last one, angle G and angle R. Now, it just depends on the picture. I could put 4 congruent marks on this, but I'm worried I'm like totally going to cover up the 84. This one I don't care about so much. I'm just going to leave them. And I just recognize my ones that do not have any marks are going to be congruent. Those match up, because otherwise I'm going to cover up the 84. Nobody wants that. Okay, are we ready for the sides? Here we go. I'm going to pick a side on the first triangle, the first quest. I almost said triangle, quadrilateral. I'm going to do the top. So I'm like, okay, DE. So I'm looking at those, DE. Now, DE is the first 2 letters. So I'm looking at the first 2 letters on the other figure. So I'm going to mark that. 1 congruent on DE, that matches up to SP. Okay, I'm going to do EF over here. Put 2 in there. So I'm looking where EF is. So the 2 middle ones. So I'm going to see that that corresponds to the 2 middle ones here, PQ. And I'm going to mark those. We're halfway. Okay, triple, I'm going to do the bottom one, GF. So to match it up, I'm like, oh gosh, GF are the back two letters, so I need the back two letters on the right figure, RQ. Let me find RQ. And then of course the four sides are corresponding. Now you're welcome to put 4 marks on it. I think I can fit the 4 marks on this one, okay? So DG. So I'm looking, DG are the outside letters, so I need the outside ones, SR. My arm almost hurts after all of that. That was just to get everything marked and labeled. We haven't even solved for X yet. Okay, all right, let's do that. So solve for X and Y. Now notice X is in 2 different expressions. My advice is start with the one that does not have X and Y in it. Start with this 2X minus 4. I'm going to jot that down quick. Now, I'm looking to see, okay, what side does that correspond to on the other figure? 3 marks, 12. Well, that's easy. I think we can almost solve that in our heads. We're going to add 4, which puts you at what? 16. What's 16 divided by 2? 8. X equals 8. Circle it. Okay, now we have to do Y. Now Y, of course, is in this angle right here, so I'm going to jot that down, 6y plus x. I don't like there's 2 letters. I'm not going to worry yet. So I see it has my 3 purple congruent marks on it. My 3 purple congruent marks on the other figure is this angle F, which is 68. Now at first glance, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this 6y plus x? You know what x is. What's x? 8. Throw an 8 in there. And then, of course, I'm going to solve that. I'm going to subtract 8, which puts you at 60. 6, that's a very sloppy 6, sorry. Y is 10. Yeah. So, do we agree that it's not crazy difficult, but it's tedious and time consuming? Yeah. That's why the notes take so long today, because we have to mark all these lovely pictures. Oh, okay. Okay, ready for another? Yeah, I feel the enthusiasm. So again, nothing is marked over there. Happy day. So we're going to work off our congruent statement. So, oh gosh, all the corresponding congruent parts. I need all the sides and angles. I'm going to do the angles first. I'm going to start with A, corresponds to C. So I'm going to mark them clearly, A and C. Yeah, they're both right. They're congruent. We know it. And then I have B and D. So I'm going to put 2 congruent marks on those. Of course, they're right angles are congruent. Right angle congruency theorem, that was for fun. Okay, third letters, G and E. So I'm going to put 3 marks on that. Now, the fourth ones, H and F, you can put 4 arc marks on those. I'm worried like I'm going to totally write into that 105 and cover it up. So I'm just going to leave those blanks and realize the blank ones are congruent. We have to do the sides. Okay, all right. I'm just going to start with the side AB. So I'm like, okay, AB were the first 2 letters, so that's congruent to CD. So let me mark CD over here. And again, I just pick a side. As you can see, I started at the top. I don't know why I started at the top. I just felt like it. Now I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to do BG. So I'm like, okay, BG are the middle 2 letters, so that's going to correspond to DE. So I'm going to mark DE over here. Okay, all right, 2 to go. We're getting there. So I'm going to do HG now. That's a sloppy H. There we go. So HG are the last 2 letters, so EF. But I want to keep it in the same order. I'm going to go FE. So this guy. And then obviously we are on the last sides, AH. Let me put 4 on this, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that is going to be congruent to the top, FC. Does your arm hurt from writing so much? Mine kind of does. All right, any questions on any of the labeling? Not hard, just time consuming. All right, let's find X in the measure of angle H. Okay, so X, of course, right here. So remember, I didn't mark the 4 congruents because I didn't want to write over, make a mess. so it's congruent to this guy. So that's easy enough to solve. 4x plus 5 equals 105. So of course I'm going to subtract the 5 over, which puts you down to 100. Divide by 4. You can do that without a calculator. What's 100 divided by 4? 25. Now, I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. Can you find the measure of angle H with no work? What is it? 105, because they're the same. Could you put 25 into your for x and calculate it? Yeah. But that seems like too much time. They are the same. So not hard, just very, very time consuming to match up all the pieces. Any questions on that one I can answer for anybody? Okay, ready? Okay, here we go. Show. So I'm already feeling like I gotta do work here. Triangle PTS. So the left one is congruent to the right ones. Now, at first glance, I'm like, oh boy, we're working our way up to proofs. I need to know all 3 sets of sides are congruent. Yeah, okay. And all the angles are congruent. They don't have anything marked on the angles. So it's our job to show the angles are congruent, which we can do. I'm going to start with the easy ones. Those are congruent. Why? Vertical angles, okay? Now I can't say angle T is congruent to T, because, what are we talking about? I'm going to use the 3 letters. I'm going to call it angle PTS. And then I'm going to call the other one here, let's call it RTQ. And I'm not going to get crazy and write a paragraph. I'm just going to say vertical angles. Okay? So we have the other 2 pairs of angles now to show. Well, did you catch these? Mine are in red, clearly yours aren't. What do these little red triangles mean? What do the red triangles mean? What type of lines? Parallel. So right away I'm like, oh gosh, corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, consecutive interior. I'm thinking about all that stuff from the last chapter. Okay, all right, I got it. These are congruent to these. Why is S and Q congruent? What type of angles are those? Alternate interior. See, geometry, the gift that keeps on giving. Just when you think you're done with a chapter, stuff comes back to haunt you. And again, I'm just going to put alt interior. I'm not going to get crazy. Okay. So clearly P and R are congruent. Why? Same reason. Same exact reason, yeah. P is congruent to R. Alternate interior. All right, any questions on that guy? That wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Maybe, hopefully. Huh? Okay, so before you flip the page, because we're going to use this in our proof today, but let me explain to you the why. There's nothing for you to write in. If 2 angles of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, and the third angles are congruent. You know I can't help myself. I'm going to talk about the why. Let's say this angle is 70 and this is 30. So I'm going to label the same. 70, of course, 30. Quick question. All 3 angles should add up to what?
180.
So if you have 100 here, what's your missing angle? And isn't that also going to hold true for this one? Yeah. So that's why, 80. That's why if you have 2 sets of congruent angles, the third one will also be congruent because they have to make 180. They'll end up being the same measure. So we're going to use that when we write our proof. I'm going to ask you in a minute. Okay, it's a free-for-all. Find the measure of B, D, C. So I want this big angle. So clearly it's 30 plus whatever this is, okay? That's what we're after, is we have to figure out what that little purple one's going to be. Well, you know, they tell you that's 45, so this is 45. So you've got some options. Of course, if this is 30, this is 30. Now there's so many triangles in here, there's 3 different ways you could get to the answer. My advice, since we're looking at that BDC, is I looked at this big triangle. I'm just going to kind of outline it in green. So I know all 3 angles have to make 180. So I have 30 in the corner. I got 45 at the top. I've got this 30 So I'm like, okay, what does that put me at? 60 plus 45, I'm at 105. What does this missing angle need to be? 75 to get you to the 180. Now, last final answer, I'm going to switch to red, BDC. What is this whole angle right here, BDC? What's 75 and 30? What do you got? 105. I mean, I had kids the earlier class. I found this interesting, but it works too. They found this one, they're like 30, 30, 60, so this would be 120 to get you to 180. Then they're like, this is 60 because it's a linear pair, 60, 45, I need 75 more. Like they did kind of a roundabout way too. You'll get the same thing, okay? There's like 5 ways to do it. All right, let's tackle the proof. Are we ready? Oh gosh. Okay, lot in the given. Start writing the given. Okay, AD is congruent to CD, which I think they marked everything for, so that's something. DC congruent to BA. I got that on there. Then I got angle ACD congruent to angle CAB. Okay, okay. And then angle CAD. This is like the world's longest given. Congruent to angle ACB. Now remember, to show triangles are congruent, I have to show all 3 sets of angles, all 3 sets of sides. 6 total pieces. I'm like, oh Lord. Okay. Well, let's see what I got for congruency. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, 4. So I think that's going to be 5, 6, and then of course my proof statement. So I think we're going to have a 4-step proof here. Okay. So of course I'm looking at this. They kind of gave me 50-50. 2 pairs of sides, 2 pairs of angles. So first off, let's do the angle. It doesn't matter. So I see we've got these 2 congruent angles. Guess what? These are going to be congruent. For the exact same reason, we click it back, this guy. If 2 angles are congruent to 2 angles in another triangle, the 3rd angles are congruent. So that's that 3rd angle theorem. So let me write it in here. Angle D congruent to angle B, 3rd angle theorem. Got it. 3rd angle. Sure. Okay, what is the last side we need to show that doesn't have a congruent mark on it? Last side we got to work on. What side doesn't have a congruent mark? It's in the middle. AC. So this guy. Now, I love it when you have a shared side because it's on both triangles, so it's going to be congruent to itself. If we haven't used this, I couldn't even tell you. It's been a while. But you're like, oh God, I can't remember the reason for that. Look at the bottom of your notes. It's one of those. So I put that in there for you. When you're congruent to the same thing, what property is that? Reflexive. That's going to start coming into play, my friends. A lot this chapter. So we have 6 pieces of congruency in here. 4, 5, 6. We got it. The triangles are congruent then. So I'm filling in the proved line. Definition of congruent triangles. Now, I hate having to do all 6 pieces of congruency. I mean, this one's nice, they gave you 4, but that's not always the case. So there are going to be some shortcuts as we go through this chapter, believe it or not, because writing out 6 pieces of congruency gets a little obnoxious. All right, last thing we have, we already talked about that, flip it. So L and M are parallel, S and T are everything's parallel. 1 is 35. I'll just label in the picture. What do you think angle 2 is? Five. 145. Why?
Wow. Yes.
Lucky guess. What type of angle is 2? Look at the picture.
Big.
It's big, it's more than what? 90, so it's obtuse. Isn't that the only obtuse answer to pick?
Yeah.
Now, okay, but I can't help myself. We gotta talk the math. What if there was more than one obtuse angle to pick from? Well, lots of ways you could do this. If this is 35, this is 35. Why? What types of angles are these? Corresponding. This is 35, this is 35. Why again? These make a line, so they need to total to 180, 145 and 35 total of 180. Okay, all right, just for the fun of math. You gotta love it.